Hi there, welcome to Floating in Dreams. This is the new makeup releases overview for March 2024. Welcome to everybody watching today. Thank you so very much for joining me. This is a video I like to do once a month at the start of every month to give you an overview of some of the makeup releases that stood out to me. I don't try to talk about everything because I find it far too overwhelming, but things that stand out to me, I tend to save them on my Instagram. And then once a month, I talk you through it. What stood out to me? What do I think is worth it? What are exciting releases? Etc, etc. So let me just get to it. In case you're new here, then hi, my name is Maaike. I live in the Netherlands. I have fair skin with a culture neutral undertone, and this greatly influences my makeup preferences, and it definitely goes into this video as well. I have been a content creator for quite some time, and I like to focus my channel mainly on eyeshadow palettes, Estee and Catrice, and getting the use out of my makeup. So if that's something you're interested in, then I hope you'd like to consider subscribing. So as with every month in recent years, it's just gotten more and more and more. I have 30 new releases to talk about, and this isn't even everything yet. Like, I've left so many things out of the equation, but these are things that stood out to me either in a positive way or in a negative way as well, because we also need to talk about the useless things, of course. At the start, I think this was like early February that this was announced, so this is probably already out, but Makeup Revolution came out with a Y2K collection, and part of me loves this because these are exactly the kind of shades that I remember wearing back in the day when I went clubbing and doing things like that. So I think that this looks stunning. However, I am someone who is not the biggest fan of Makeup Revolution quality. I went back to them again last year and I did a full face makeup look, and there were only like 2 things that I ended up keeping in my makeup collection long term. So especially their eyeshadow, I just don't think it's worth it. Like, they do, like, I think if you like affordable makeup, or if your budget just doesn't allow you to buy many more expensive things, then I think this can make sense and Makeup Revolution can do some really nice products. It's just that I very often feel that I have much better quality in my collection by now, so they're just not my favorite. I think this looks cute, but I have other Y2K inspired palettes in my collection already, so I don't necessarily need this one. So I'm not sure how new this next release is. I know this is out already as well. This is by Melt, and they've come out with stacks. And I'm confused because Melt used to do stacks. I had a couple of them. And now they have warm browns and neutral browns and some gel liners. I'm like, for a while now, I just feel like we're going back in time, and Melt coming out with these kind of shades, it very much reminds me of like 2016 when they first launched their stacks. Warm and neutral browns, they just don't look that appealing to me. The only thing I've seen swatches for is the warm brown set, and it looks very much like the Rust palette the Rust stack that I used to own, and the Rust palette that they turn it into. So yeah, Melt has been going back in time, it seems, and they're relaunching a product they used to. It now seems to come in cardboard though. I remember the stacks not being the most practical, which is why I never reached for them, which is why I decolored mine over time. So yeah, this is not something I needed to get for sure. Next up is a new release from Fantasy Cosmetica. This is the Wizard palette. In case you don't know, Fantasy Cosmetica is currently one of my favorite indie brands to shop from. I love the fact that they are 9 pans and still interesting color stories with lots of different interesting textures going on, and they're not super expensive. Like, so many indie brands nowadays charge 80 to 100 euros, like it's nothing. And Fantasy Cosmetica is a little bit more like lower than that, so that's one of the reasons why I like them. This one is a little bit expensive for them though, because this was like, I think, 45 euros on the Monolith website. This came in stock with the most recent Monolith restock, and I did pick this up. It came in the other day. Unfortunately, it wasn't here on time to show it to you in my most recent haul, but I will just show it to you next month. And I also got some other things from another brand. So yeah, this is already in my home. So yeah, the Wizard palette, I just knew a lot of people didn't like the Warlock palette they released at the end of 2023, but I tried it at the start of this year and I really liked it. The colors are a little like, when you look at it, like, does that go together? And this is a really pretty purple blue palette with a couple of yellows in, but it's super duper light as well. Like in the pictures, I feel it looks a lot more saturated. I swatched it just before I sat down to film this video today, and the shades are really, really nice for pale skin, and it's cool toned. So you knew I had to pick this one up. We have a new release from Nude Sticks, and Nude Sticks is a brand that, because it is very difficult for me to find, is not something that's usually on my radar. However, on one of my most recent trips, I went to Düsseldorf in February. I found the brand at Sephora, and there were actually a couple of products where I was like, okay. I think, like, none of it was in stock though, but if I could find it in stock, I probably would have picked up a blush by them. And they now have the Nude Screen blush tints with an SPF of 30. So would this be like my first purchase from the brand? Because I've never tried Nude Sticks, to be quite fair. But yeah, this wouldn't be my first pick for sure. But some of their blush sticks look really pretty, and I think it's a formula I'd like to try at some point if I can find them in store, in stock. Nude Sticks, I'm not sure. Like, if it's Sephora, I can probably buy it online. But this is just a little bit difficult for me to find. We have a palette that I think looks so pretty in the picture. I just know, just looking at it, that it's not going to be for me. But I just wanted to give this a shout out for anyone with deep skin. I think the Davini Beauty Ascension palette looks absolutely stunning. I know nothing about this brand. The information I have on it is that this palette is $65. So that makes me think this is a US-based indie brand that is quite new. But yeah, it's got some really stunning shades, but it seems to be quite dark. So I know this isn't for me, but I think this is a really pretty release for people with more like deeper skin tones for sure. Supergoop is another brand that is just really difficult for me to get. If I can get myself to a Sephora, I can see this in store. Supergoop is mainly known for doing their SPF, and they are now dropping a tinted version of that. I'm pretty sure this is going to be making the rounds, but I have my Tower 28 one, which I've kept as like the sunscreen based skin tint of choice for me to have in my collection. So I'm not really looking for a new one anytime soon. And I have plenty of foundations. I need to get through a couple. I need to use some up. So I'm not really in the market for foundation right now. Plus, my aim this year is to try some more K-Beauty like cushion foundations. And there are a couple of like regular foundations from K-Beauty brands on my wish list. So if I'm buying anything that like could be like a tinted sunscreen kind of product, I'm probably going to buy it from a K-Beauty brand and not a Western one, because I have found that just what a lot of Western makeup brands are doing is taking Asian beauty products and Westernizing it. And I'm like, I'm fair-skinned enough that I can get away with the shades they have on offer from K-Beauty brands, so I might as well just go to the source. Oden's Eye has announced the new legendary Diversa series. So this is the second round of the collab that they did in the past with Annette's Makeup Corner, Judy, and the Fancy Face, Tina from the Fancy Face. So they did a collection of 3 palettes with these creators before, and now they're doing another round. I never got any of the first round, and that's why I'm also not going to be buying anything from the second round. I have mentioned just recently in another video yet again that Oden's Eye is a little hit and miss for me, which is why they need to do something incredible that really has me go like grasping my pearls, gasping beautiful, that it makes me want to go like, yes, I want to purchase from you, and these palettes ain't it. So I'm going to be skipping this one. So Guerlain is a brand that I usually pass up on. They're just a little bit expensive. They seem to never really have shades that work for really pale skin tones, but they came out with a blush range, and weirdly, I'm intrigued. Do I need any more powder blush though? No, I'm good when it comes to powder blush. I don't need any others, but there are a couple of these like lighter pinky tones that really speak to me. Like they just really, really look stunning. I think it's only 3 shades though. Is it 3 shades? I'm not sure. Oh, it comes in a light and a deep version. That's what it is. So they have a light version and a deep version for each of the 3 shades, which I think is clever. Especially, you don't really see luxury brands do that very often. Like, so I'm glad about that. Kiko came out with another new limited edition collection for spring, the Days in Bloom. This is just some palettes, but one thing it had was like one of their Charlotte Tilbury dupes. So Kiko Milano is an Italian-based drugstore brand. They have standalone stores around Europe, maybe also in other places. I know they're available online in the US, at least through Ulta. So they do a lot of good things there. Like they're pretty widely available, you could say. And they do dupes for more expensive products for sure. I have this theory that since Kiko is an Italian-based brand, it's like luxury for less, really, because a lot of the really great luxury brands are all made in Italy, and I have this feeling that a lot of the Kiko products are at least coming from the same factory. So even though the packaging is a little bit cheaper, you're getting really high quality formulas from Kiko. It's just that with a lot of their limited editions, I feel they tend to repeat themselves a lot. So I feel these palettes, like this kind of color story, we've had before from the brand, and also their Charlotte Tilbury like blush one dupes. They usually, I think they bring them out every spring. So with Kiko, you really don't need to rush to get their limited editions because there's going to be one that's going to be a little less popular and they're going to have products in there that are going to work. So that's why I decided to pass up on this. This like spring pastel vibe is not necessarily what I need in my life. But I did try their Stellar Love, which was their Valentine's Day collection, and they had some really excellent products in that lineup that actually made it into my makeup collection. So I'm really happy with what Kiko does. It's one of my favorite drugstore brands for a reason. Then something I'm super excited for is the new Glossier Cloud Paint bronzers. So this is the Cloud Paint formula, I hope, which I love for blush, and now they're doing it in a bronzer formula, and one of them in the shade Sail, I think it's called, seems to be super light. So I think this might work for me. The Glossier brand used to have a bronzer before. I'm not sure if that's still around. I passed up on it at the time because it had a lot of shimmer in, and I don't think these have that. Now, Glossier is now available internationally. However, I have a trip coming up in the next couple of months where I go to London, and there is a Glossier store there. So I think I'm going to save this purchase for that trip so I can buy it when I'm there. I'm in no hurry to be buying this. But yeah, it's definitely one that's going to go onto the wish list. Then Pat McGrath released a new eyeshadow palette. And this is something that Pat McGrath has done for a while now, where they take an older product, slap some special packaging onto it, and re-release it, because this isn't new. This is the Divine Rose 2. So even though it looks really new and exciting because it's in a gold box with a different cardboard box that you get, this is nothing new from the brand. It's the exact same palette. It just comes in special packaging. Did we need this? Absolutely not. In fact, I decluttered my Divine Rose 2 last year. So I definitely didn't need it. I gave it to one of my neighbors because this is too expensive to like just chuck out the door, you could say. So I did make sure to make it go to a nice home for people who are like, wait, you're giving me this eyeshadow palette? I'm like, you said you wanted some more special makeup, and I'm no longer going to use this. So here you go. Have fun. I hope you enjoyed a lot more than I did. Then we have another release from Nabla, which is a little bit unexpected because Nabla hasn't been releasing a lot of new things, which I don't mind. Like these like ColourPop, like churning out new things all the time kind of thing. It's giving me a headache. So I like that Nabla doesn't do too much, but then they give us this quad. And I'm like, I have something similar like to this from Kaleidos, from Viseart. So this is not really new and exciting to me in terms of what I have in my makeup collection. And And you know, Nabla isn't exactly super duper affordable. I'm not sure how much the palette is. It's apparently 10 euros, it says here, which seems cheap for Nabla. I'm not entirely sure whether Trend Mood got that right. But yeah, it seems to have one like lilac-y matte and then 3 shimmers. If you want this kind of thing, then it can be really pretty, but I do feel that some of these shades are perhaps a little bit like chunky, like they're glittery, which is not my favorite formula at all. I actually think that these are singles, now that I look at it again. Like the palette itself is 10 euros, but then you still need to pay for each shade individually. That's what's going on. See, I knew this was like too cheap if it was only 10 euros. But yeah, you need to buy the palette and the individual pans, it seems. Yeah, they're pretty shades, but I think I actually have a matte like lilac-y purple like that from Nabla in my singles collection, so don't need this for sure. Then Lethal Cosmetics has dropped a lot of new things. They have multi-chrome flakes, multi-chrome holos, and iridescent trichomes. It's just like indie brands just seem to be like a couple of years ago, everything had to be multi-chrome for it to be indie, and now we're getting into holographic. Like that's the new innovation, is to have holographic shades, which it can be very pretty. I see quite a lot of people on TikTok trying Carla Cosmetics that do a lot of these like singles, and Lethal Cosmetics seems to be doing their version of it. I think. I don't necessarily need these. These are quite expensive, like 23 or 18 euros for like a single thing. The trichomes are a little bit less expensive. I get why it's expensive. These are expensive formulas to make, but I think they come in little pots. They could dry out really easily. I have plenty of multi-chromes from Cliona. I'll get to another brand in a minute that I've purchased some palettes from that seem to have holographic shimmers in them as well. So I don't necessarily need it. In fact, I feel like my Gloss God, like the most recent drop they did with the Gal on Jupiter, it has a holographic shade in as well. Colourpop is doing them, so we're gonna see a lot more holographic, I think, this year, especially from indie brands, but I don't need the Lethal Cosmetics version. I have all the Lethal shades I could possibly want. And then something that is exciting to me, it's just that they're called the Creamy Obsession eyeshadow palettes. They're by Huda Beauty, and one of them is really, really pretty cool tones. And here's the reason why I wanted to actually hopefully find these in store. I went to Germany to Sephora. These should be out already, but I don't think they've quite made it to Europe yet. So they weren't in store. We have Huda Beauty in store here as well, so I could potentially check them out. Because they're called the Creamy Obsession, my brain is instantly like, wait, is this an all cream palette? Because if it is, then I'm not sure if I'm gonna like it. And if it's powders with creams in the same palette, I also know I'm not gonna like it. Because creams next to powders is just a mess waiting to happen. And from the way these are swatched in the promo pictures, like the way they're like promoted, it seems to be like a couple of creams with powders. So these just have me worried. I would want to swatch these in store. The Cool Tone one has my heart. Like, if it's good, like if I swatch this in store and it blows me away, I might pick it up. However, if it is like I'm imagining this to be, where it is like a bunch of creams with powders in the same pan, that just gives me the ick. It's one of the things that has put me off of buying other Huda Beauty palettes in the past. The new Nude, anyone? So yeah, I think I'm gonna skip on it, but I am gonna hopefully like be able to find it in store at some point so I can swatch it to really feel these formulas and to see if it's like just incredibly rich, creamy like powders, which is my hope. But if it's like just a straight up cream next to a shimmer formula, I know I'm not gonna like this. It's gonna give me a headache. Then we have the Ensley Rain Groovy Garden. Now this has just been released, and I don't think this was not part of the Monolith restock. It could be part of the next Monolith restock. I think they're restocking again in April, I'm not sure. But yeah, this is a really pretty looking palette. It's very shimmer, very similar to other Ensley Rain palettes. I think it looks too much like the Harvest Moon. This does have a lot more mattes though. With some of the Ensley Rain releases I've seen, you get a matte and a shimmer like duo, and then there tends to be more shimmers in an Ensley Rain palette than mattes, but this is quite matte heavy. So for matte heavy people, like palette lovers, this might be perfect. For me, this is a little bit too warm toned. It's not really up my street. But yes, I already mentioned when I was mentioning the Fantasy Cosmetica palette, I mentioned the Monolith drop already, and I did manage to get my hands on 2 Ensley Rain palettes. So you're just going to have to stay tuned for the haul to know which ones, but I think some of you are able to guess which ones they might be. So just saying, I am trying this brand because I was very curious after their formula, but this is one of those indie brands that has really expensive palettes. But they are also pretty big. Like this one is a 21 pan. One of the ones I got is a 25 pan. Like they do pretty massive palettes with these really interesting like duochromy, multi-chromy, holographic like shimmers. And I'm like, yeah, so I understand the price point, but I really want to see whether I find it worth it as well. I've swatched it and I'm very interested in seeing how I'm going to feel once I try these shades on my face, because some of them felt very gritty and I could feel the glitter particles in them, which makes me think, are these eye safe? So I'm not entirely sure just yet, but you're just going to have to wait for the haul to see exactly what palettes I got. And then in April, I will already be trying them because hopefully this month in March, I will be able to get through everything I got for Black Friday. And so these are the first palettes I actually bought since Black Friday, which I'm very happy with. The low buy is going strong, but of course I do want to keep my eyeshadow palette review series going. So those are going to be things I will be reviewing in April for sure. Natasha Denona has a new hyper natural face palette. She has done a couple of these, and I'm going to repeat what I said then. I don't like face and eye palettes in one go. I just don't reach for them. I would never ever use this. Like, the eyeshadow shades look nice, but I would never reach for those face products, or like face palettes to begin with aren't really my vibe, so I'm going to be skipping this one. I'm just waiting for whatever Natasha Denona is going to do next when it comes to her like regular 15 pan palettes. That's what I'm excited for, to see what she comes out with next. We have some new lipsticks by Merit. This is another thing where I'm like, please start shipping to Europe because these look really, really stunning. It's the Signature Lip Lightweight Matte Lipstick. Merit is one of those clean beauty brands that are very hip and happening. Everybody's raving about them. I want to try them, and Merit doesn't ship anywhere, but I think the UK? They do ship to the UK, but they don't ship to anywhere else. It's like the US and the UK, and those are the only 2 places that can try Merit, so unless they start coming to like a place like Cult Beauty, I might be able to buy them. If they do come to a place like Cult Beauty, it will probably sell out like hotcakes. So it's probably going to be very difficult to get my hands on, which is why I've never tried the brand. So unless I have like a trip to the US coming up, which I'm not planning in the next 3 years, this is not going to happen. So I'm going to pass up on that for sure. Catrice came out with a new limited edition collection. Catrice is churning out the new, because they just did their update as well in January. This is the My Jewels, My Rules collection. It's mainly nail polish? I don't know. With Catrice, I just feel that so many of their limited editions just feel so random. I like the heart one, the Valentine's Day one. That one I do really enjoy. It had some really pretty products. But this, I look at the shades and I just go like, what's this? What's going on here? I didn't need any of these, which is why I'm skipping up on the new Catrice one. Then we have a new fragrance from Kayali. Kayali, I don't know really how to pronounce it. It's the Oudgasm Smoky Oud 07. So this is an oud-based fragrance. I'm not entirely sure It's got rum, saffron, and some like florally notes in the middle, then patchouli, cedarwood, some vanilla, white musk, and oud in the base. I do like myself an oud base fragrance, but I don't necessarily need this. I now own two of them, two by this brand, two fragrances. I have the Yum Pistachio Gelato, and I have a mini of the Vanilla 28, which I'm wearing today, and I'm really liking it. So I thought it might be a little bit too sweet for me, but I'm liking it. This seems to be like my go-to brand for sweet fragrances, which I usually don't like because I don't like smelling like candy. And I very often feel that a sweet or too floral fragrance can just smell a bit off. But the Kayali ones are really nice. So maybe if I get to smell this, I might fall in love. But at the minute, I'm not really eyeing up any fragrance because I feel like my fragrance collection is at a very good point. So there's nothing that really stands out to me at the minute. Then I think a lot of people might be very interested in this next release. This is from Beauty Bay. They've come out with a smoky line. So it comes with their 16, their 9, and their larger palette as well. I know a lot of people love Beauty Bay in terms of like affordable eyeshadow quality that doesn't break the bank, but that gives you a lot of bang for your buck. I tried another Beauty Bay palette, the Metamorphic that came out for Christmas last year. I tried it and I like it okay. It's just, I can just tell it's cheap makeup. It has that really smelly, like that cheap makeup smell that I just don't really love. Everybody raves about how stunning the shimmers are. I cannot really get down with it. With Beauty Bay, I have just really found, I've tried a couple of their palettes, but it doesn't look quite right on my skin. I just prefer a formula that's a little less pigmented and that has more blendability than this is. However, if you are someone who loves pigmentation, these are really pretty palettes, and the fact that they're now doing like a cool tone smoky vibe, I think a lot of people have been waiting for this. So maybe at some point I could buy this, but like the really big one that seems to have the more interesting shades is a little bit too big for my liking, and the other one is a little too gray heavy. Like the medium-sized one and the small one is too dark. So none of these are perfect for me. So I think I'm gonna skip up on this. Like I say how much I like cool tones. It's just that I've tried so many cool tone palettes in the past couple of months that I just feel I need to take a break. Like I either want something a bit more colorful now. I'm actually thinking of trying more warm tones again. Like trying to find good warm tones is like the next thing, but I'm not sure if I should do that. But yeah, this is just, I think it's pretty. If you don't have a gray black palette, this can be like the affordable version of the Natasha Denona Xenon palette. It is definitely deeper. It has more browns. If you like warm tones, if you have a deeper skin tone, this is probably going to work a lot better for you than the Natasha Denona Xenon did. But I like my Xenon. It wasn't perfect. It has its flaws, but I already have something like this from another brand, so I don't feel I need to run out and get it. It's spring, of course, so we're getting the pastels again, because what's a springtime in the makeup world without getting a pastels release? This time it's from Glaminatrix, which I like most of these shades, but I'm not sure what they were going for with those 4 deep tones at the bottom, because they don't really seem to go with any of those other shades, because the pastels are all quite white base and they have a cooler undertone, and then the deep tones are all very warm. So for me, there's a clash there, but maybe I'm the only person seeing this. The pastels look pretty, but one of those Ensley Rain palettes I got is essentially a pastel palette, so I don't feel I need this. Then I think Terra Moons has come out with a new collection as well. I'm not entirely sure what this is called. This is just an update. It seems to have some like lip glosses, some singles, some palettes. Like, it's pretty for sure, but again, these color stories don't really speak to me to the point where I'm like, need this in my life. So that's why I'm skipping this one. Juvia's Place has come out with some new products, a Radiance Booster and a setting spray. So is this their version of like the Charlotte Tilbury Hollywood Flawless Filter? It seems to be like every brand, every affordable brand is coming out with their version. Of course, since it's Juvia's Place, I hope they do a lot more deeper tones, because that's usually where it's lacking. But Juvia's Place is, again, US only. They're a little bit more difficult for me to get if I buy them. It's no longer affordable to me, and Essence just came out with another dupe that I still need to try. So I'm good for Charlotte Tilbury dupes for a little while to come. I don't need this in my life right now. Then this palette really seems intriguing to me. It's just one of those things where I'm like, it's a US-based indie brand. Do I want this? Yes or no? But this is the Out of Luck eyeshadow palette by CXC Beauty. I don't think I've ever seen this brand before, but here I just love the mix of the grays with the greens. It seems to have some duochromes in as well. This is $59 though. I mean, it looks pretty. I think I could get down with something like this, but since we now have Monolith in Europe and they import so many indie brands, I just feel a little like reluctant to be putting towards like a new indie brand that I've never tried before and then having to pay for all of the shipping and handling fees if I can already get my hands on it, because I'm just a little bit spoiled now that Monolith has so many things. I don't mind waiting 6 months to get my hands on a product, but if I can buy it from Monolith, it is so much cheaper than getting it myself from the US-based websites, and this brand isn't on there yet. So maybe I'm just gonna wait until Monolith adds this to their collection, and then I might be able to pick it up. But yeah, no, it's an interesting color story, but I'm pretty sure that we get it from one indie brand, and we're probably going to get it from another one very soon as well. Then we have something that I'm very intrigued by, the Urban Decay Phase Bond Waterproof Liquid Foundation with Niacinamide. So it's got skincare properties. The bottle looks interesting. It's a bit like a skin tint, I think. It reminds me a little bit of the Fenty one though, so it may be a little bit too matte for my liking. Unfortunately, your Urban Decay is like no longer around. Maybe in the UK you can still find it, but in Europe, it's crickets. They've completely shut down all of their presence here. It's no longer in stores. You can't find it online. And I'm just no longer really interested in finding foundations online. It's pretty much impossible, especially with these extensive shade ranges that we're getting. It's just so difficult to find your shade if you can't swatch it, especially if there are multiple undertones, which this one seems to have. So, yeah, again, unless I travel to the US, I probably will not be able to find this. But Urban Decay, I still have a soft spot for them. I still do. But yeah, they're pretty much impossible to get where I live currently. Something I'm also excited for, Haus Labs has re-released their powder blushes. This is their Fuse Blush Powders, and these look stunning. It's just a really pretty formula. And now that Haus Labs seems to be rolled out in European Sephora's, and since I do have a couple of EU trips coming up in the next couple of months, I hope I'll be able to find some more Haus Labs. I have no clue if, once they get there, how quickly things are going to sell out, but this is definitely a formula I would like to swatch and check out, as well as the Haus Labs concealer. I'd like to try that as well, because Haus Labs is like, I tried the foundation and the lip tint, and those were some stunning products, so definitely want to try more Haus Labs. We mentioned a limited edition collection from Catrice. We also have one from Essence. Yay! So the Essence So Mermazing collection has already dropped. I already saw this in store, and I don't know. I didn't need this in my life, but I'm sure someone will find this cute. It's got like shimmery things. It's got like a highlighter thing, but no can do. I'm going to pass up on this. Then we have the NYX Matte Butter Melt Bronzer. So this is a cream bronzer from NYX, I think. Again, NYX is very difficult to find the new products from where I live. We have NYX. It's just that we're very behind on releases. And whenever I go in store and try to look at products, everything is always out of stock. I don't know what's going on there. So not sure when this is ever going to come my way, but yeah, if I find it and I can swatch it, I will definitely check this out. I like a cream bronzer, but since this is matte, I'm not sure I'm gonna love it. But yeah, it's a NYX product. I like NYX. They're a good brand. It's just that with a lot of their shades and their releases just not being here on time, I usually forget about them. Not gonna lie. Then we have Too Faced. And this is apparently already out here in Europe. The Born This Way mini eyeshadow palettes. And for once, Too Faced has done something where I'm like, oh? Because I haven't been interested in a Too Faced release for a while. Because Too Faced tends to have two sides. They have like the kitschy, childish stuff, and that's what they have been promoted mostly, it seems. But then they also have this like bare, naked kind of side. They've always had this. And especially that cooler toned, like six pan is looking nice. Do I need it? No, it's very basic. I like basic shades. Like I'm wearing a Barely There eye look today and I'm loving it, but I don't need another palette that can give me that. I have these shades in a million times over in my collection, but for the first time in forever, I'm like, ooh, Too Faced, you're doing something nice here. And finally, there is a Forever Teddy collection from MAC. I'm not entirely sure what's in here. We have some blush palettes, it seems, some lipsticks. There seems to be a bronzer as well. Oh, they're face palettes. There's like a little bronzer hidden underneath the eyeshadow. That's what's going on. They're eyeshadows. Okay. I'm pretty sure that they've taken Velvet Teddy as a shade and just ran with it. Velvet Teddy is not my favorite. In fact, I've decluttered mine. It was just a bit too orange for my liking. So for me, I'm going to be skipping this collection, but I think MAC is doing something interesting here. So well done, MAC. Not for me, but I'm sure there's someone out there who might like this. And that's everything that I wanted to mention in today's video. Thank you so very much for watching. Let me know in a comment down below, what makeup release are you excited for? Is there anything you've picked up recently, or is there anything you know about that's being released that you are enjoying? I would love to know, and then I would like to thank you so very much for joining me today. Please stay tuned for more because I make new videos 4 times a week over on this channel, once a week on my second channel, and I post every single day on my blog where I post most of my makeup reviews. So if you would like to go to any of those places, we'll see each other somewhere, and then I hope to see you in my next video. Bye-bye!